Hi there and welcome to Lorena's Labyrinth. My name's Anna Pirelli. The comments that you see here are my views, beliefs, opinions, and sometimes they are not even my fully formed views, beliefs, and opinions. However, they are my understandings. Please do retain an open mind and reflect on any of the content and your comfort levels. If your views differ, please feel free to leave a comment. Also remember, it is possible to disagree in respectful ways. My way is not necessarily your way and vice versa. You might also find that some of the content on this playlist in regard to spiritual or universal laws, it resonates with you, meaning it feels right to you, while other laws may not feel right or they may not feel comfortable. If this is the case, the information is either not right for you or it is not right for you right now, and it might never be right for you at any given time. It really doesn't matter. As an earthy and practical person, I can put my hand up with all honesty and say that I have at different times had the same feelings about some of the content in here. And with some of them, I still have a level of skepticism within my viewpoints, but I choose to retain an open mind about the things that I don't fully understand for a few reasons. Firstly, because I believe it would be supreme arrogance to think that we all know all of the answers while we have a body. And because what is right for one of us is not necessarily right or suitable for all of us, and I choose to respect the differences. Please do leave your opinions, beliefs. Feel free to argue the points in a respectful way with any of the content on the slides and even my interpretations. And if you feel that you can add clarity around some of the content, we would all love to see it. Thank you. For now, though, let's explore the laws.
All creation is governed by law. The principles that operate in the outer universe, discoverable by scientists, are called natural laws. But there are subtler laws that rule the hidden spiritual planes and the inner realm of consciousness. Contained within these laws, or conditions, is the true nature of matter. Knowledge of these laws has an effect upon the mental urges. Mind is the builder. Stay in full mindfulness of the application of universal law as related to self and to others, and know that in love all life is given, in love all things move. In giving one attains, in giving one acquires. In giving, love becomes the fulfillment of desire, guided and directed in the ways that bring the more perfect knowledge of self as related to the universal, all-powerful, all-guiding, all divine influence in life. Love is life. When we go back, merge with the God source, in some infinitesimal but profound way, we expand the mind of God. Our higher self always points the best and most perfect way, and it is ours to listen and choose or reject what we hear. It does not blame, but patiently tries again to show the perfect way, the loving way. All of creation pushes forth. We are ever becoming. Identity ever remains. Universal law number 81. The law of rhythm. Everything flows, out and in. Everything has its times. All things rise and fall. The pendulum swing manifests in everything. The measure of the swing to the right is the measure of the swing to the left. Rhythm compensates. This principle, on the physical plane, is the most visible of all principles, and its power is observed within the forces of nature which move the waves and tides of our oceans and the continuous changes of the seasons. It is observed in the continuous cycles of life, death, and the rebirth of all things, a rise and fall of governments and nations, a constant creation and destruction of suns, worlds, and galaxies. On the plane of energy, it is observed in the behavior of the alternating current wave of electricity, light, and heat as it vibrates between the positive and negative pole. Rhythm on the mental plane is experienced as the wide mood swings displayed in human nature. It can be experienced as extreme happiness, and then swing to extreme sadness, from a gentle behavior to an extremely violent behavior at the blink of an eye. Rhythm is the law of compensation and maintains the equilibrium in all things. it returns to us what we measure out in life. The return swing of the pendulum is assured without fail, and there is no escape from the effects of this immutable law. This law holds us true to what we believe, or not believe, and compensates us accordingly. All of nature follows this law. Rhythm perpetuates the phenomenon of time. The pendulum-like swing of rhythm is immutable, and we can only counteract its backward swing by mentally polarizing ourselves in a desirable position on the scale of life. It requires a dedicated personal commitment to cultivate the unknown within all of us in order to cause a quantum leap in the evolutionary process of life with all its aches and pains. This is a mental art that is known to hierophants, adepts, and masters of all ages. We will fulfill the law one way or another, either use the law to our advantage or become its subject. The door of universal law swings in all directions. The final result depends what we have chosen to believe and whether or not our belief system allows us to see the truth as it really is. If we do not want to know or do not care, then we will evolve through the standard process of evolution. Nothing can or is allowed to stand still. All manifestation is the result of active energy producing certain results. An expenditure of energy in any one direction will necessitate an equal expenditure in an opposite direction.
So another great big wordy law, this one is big sigh. Okay, we touched on this, I believe, in the law of rebound, where we talk about swings and roundabouts, and where I had mentioned that in my observations that the deeper the life lows that I've experienced, or the abyss that a person can fall into, reflects that a person can have higher highs. So I did add the caution that, with this line of thinking, there is a risk to a diagnosis of bipolar or manic disorder. So to put this into perspective, what I had touched upon in the law of rebound was this idea of the law of rhythm. And I'm not sure if I can draw you a picture, but if, let's say, life is cyclical, because it's very clear that it is, and this is repeated through the universal laws, that the bigger the wheel that we're actually on, the lower the depths a person can fall into. So if they become despairing, woeful, woebegone, and all the rest of it, that's when an individual needs to dig very deep, because I did work out many years ago that if you can fall that far and down that low, then equally, because life is this polar opposite, and through this law it's saying the law of rhythm, it's going to spin the other direction just as wide, so you can go as high as high. Now, what I did find for myself, though, was that the higher I went, it wasn't that I was unhappy. It was absolutely beautiful, actually, I must say. But I became ungrounded, and so I decided that I needed to get balance in. So this is a lived experience lesson of this law of rhythm. And it was because I was so focused on the spiritual that every time the earthly came in, such as, you've got to pay the rent, or you've got to pay the rent because you were off with the fairies and that kind of stuff, it would basically rock me, shake me. It was like, instead of me watching and maintaining my balance and staying grounded and focused, it was that I would come crashing every time I had to deal with my physical earthly existence. And I don't mean this in a really bad way. I'm probably not being a very good storyteller here of what the experience was like, but I found it disconcerting until I reached that point where it was like, you know what, forget these really big highs and big lows. I want to have smaller pendulum swings, it turns out, based on this law. Anyway, but going back to it, I do interpret this law as saying that what goes up must come down, and vice versa, and reiterating this business of life is a series of cycles and we can't change it. It's outside of our personal power. No matter what we believe and think, life is a process of change and even uncertainty, and the only thing that we have control over is this capacity to center ourselves and to retain our internal balance through the process of change. And this requires a real commitment and dedication. And I can assure you it certainly did on my part, because life is this ongoing series of challenges and changes that are designed to test our resolve. Now, what this law I also see as saying is that once we've mastered the techniques of balance, then we're considered to be an adept, where we can learn to use the law to our advantage. And I'm talking about the law of rhythm here. And I imagine this means seeing opportunities, acting upon them, and that if we fail to do so, then we become at the mercy of the rhythm of life instead of working with the rhythm. Now, that actually does make sense to me. I'm not sure if it makes sense to you, but this is part of this whole spiritual stuff that we see, where we're encouraged to release resistance. Don't fight it. Go with the flow, because when you go with the flow and release resistance, that doesn't mean giving up and handing over your personal power. It means that you recognize that your personal power only extends so far. It doesn't extend to controlling everybody around you or the environment. And the point being that if we continue to try and force against, we can call this the rhythm of life, or we can even call it the law of nature based on, I think, common understanding, then we just create more grief for ourselves. And I feel this is what this law is saying. Now, I just want to put into perspective here too, that despite the fact that there is this law of rhythm and compensation that they're talking about, what goes up must come down, the more you give, the more you receive, etc., etc. When life does become extremely challenging, my understanding is that you can actually turn around and request for a period or phase of mercy, and please give me some respite or whatever before you hurl the next great big change grenade at me. Because let's be real, life can be quite difficult for many people in these modern times. Realistically, though, it's not possible for us to stand still indefinitely, as much as we would like to say, really, goodness me, can we just have some constancy, some stability? The stability is internal, it's not an environmental thing. Now, the other point that occurred to me when I was reading this was it actually offered an explanation to me for something that happened quite a few years ago now, okay? And putting this into perspective, I was highly involved in the metaphysical aspects of life, and I chose to do further study as part of the mainstream fitting. Somebody had said to me years ago that when we do the metaphysical work, we tend to live on the peripherals of society as opposed to being included within society, because a lot of the stuff that we do is just too out there for the mainstream who are not aware of this other side of life, shall we say, the energetic side. They find it difficult. And I had reached a point where it was like, no, I want to be able to have my metaphysical attributes, but also be able to walk and work within society. And I'd reached a point where I felt that I needed to be doing my social work degree and that kind of thing to be able to support my clients in practical solutions, okay? Just part of my pathway. But I have conscious recollection of turning around and telling the universe I want it all. I thought, why should I not ask for it all? I wanted to be able to be the best social worker that I could be, and I wanted to be the best energy worker, reader that I could be. This is, just so you know, this is not about me saying, well, I don't think it was about me saying, my ego needs this to be fed. It was about my belief and perception that we should all be striving for personal excellence, to be the best version of ourselves, that old word salad thing. And so I thought, well, I want to be the best social worker that I can be, and I want to be the best energy worker, tarot reader, psychic medium, that kind of thing that I can be as well. Now, what happened was, of course, when you're at university, you've got responsibilities and commitments. You've got to produce your what are they called, submissions and all of that kind of stuff through the process, and invariably the metaphysical stuff fell by the wayside, and social work became the focus of my attention, along with my family responsibilities. And where I'm going with this is the metaphysical fell by the side, okay? And I sort of felt a bit sad about that. But as I read this, I realised what I actually was doing was trying to make, when we talk about the law of rhythm, I was trying to make that pendulum swing in two directions at the one time, and I never realised until I was reading this that actually it simply wasn't possible. As much as I would have liked it to, the reality is it can only swing one way at a time. So I guess the point that I'm making now is I did 5 years towards the, well, I probably did 7 all up actually, towards this focus of attention on mainstream education, and now it's time to turn my attention to putting, say, 7 years solid into the metaphysical. This is what I'm thinking just reading this law. But anyway, of course, I'm always interested to hear your thoughts and how you interpret the content that I put up here. You may have your own experiences that you want to add to this, and I'm, of course, very interested to hear. Until now, I'm going to love you, leave you, catch you on the next one. See you later. Bye-bye for now.